All right, and welcome back to another episode of Neglected News. Today we're actually going to come in and talk about free speech censorship. What it is, what it's all about, why it's around. So let's kind of get into the basis of what is free speech. Free speech is your and mine ability to be able to speak on any topic that we deem fit. Now, censorship is the desire to shut down that method of speech. And that comes from only one place, no matter where you want to look at it, however you want to define it. The only place it actually comes from is the left's inability or lack of desire to be willing to debate or argue against the truth. Because, as we all know, the left's whole concept and ideologies are built upon the world that they create, and that's what they call your truth, is however you want to perceive the world. That's apparently the way that it exists. It's an Alice in Wonderland, fantasy, nonsensical way of thinking, but whenever you encounter confrontational bias, whenever you've believed or bought into something, and then have to admit that you were wrong and adopt another method of thinking, this is a psychological process that is very damaging to most people who don't have any sort of foundation within themselves. So let's get into the censorship of free speech itself. I guess the best point would be to start with who's being silenced right now. I mean, we've heard of free speech being talked about in the news here recently, and it's really being brought up over the big tech issue and the censorship on YouTube and Twitter and so forth. But who's being silenced? Let's look at that. You have Louis Farrakhan, who is obviously the leader of the Muslim nation across the world, and avid anti-Semitic, avid anti-Caucasian, and Alex Jones is going to be another one of those. We all know who he is. He's kind of been brought up in the news here recently as being, obviously the InfoWars president sponsor and the creator of mainstream conspiracy movement, according to CNN, MSNBC, all the main ones. NBC, nothing but crap. CNBC, the crap, nothing but crap. We see it all. Who else? Gavin McInnes, believe it or not. A man who wasn't even born in this country, and he's facing censorship as well. Another one that just got brought up in the news the other day is going to be that 14-year-old girl who is alt-right and has a foul mouth against the leftist establishment. She goes by the name of Soph. She got brought up in the news recently and actually had her YouTube channel shut down for a period of time. Milo Yiannopoulos, we all know of him. Now, he hasn't been shut down on YouTube, but he has been taken off of Twitter. He's been taken off of Facebook and a couple of his accounts. Who else? Oh, Laura Loomer. If you remember her, she was the one that actually helped us bring to light a lot of the conspiracies that were being built around the Las Vegas shooting and exposed a lot of problems according to, flight path. Everything according to the Federal Aviation Administration has to have a flight path. It has to be registered. She brought out some very interesting things that people did not like, and they shut her down as well. Tommy Robinson, a man who has spent his whole political career, if you want to call it that. He is now running for a position within the United Nations, but his whole public appearance has been brought up to us simply for the fact that he has reached a point in his country over in the UK where the Muslim immigration has become so much that the immigration is actually over 40% of the hometown population. So if you have a population of 100 and you add 50%, 40%, you're almost doubling it. Now imagine that on a 10,000 person census, place where people live. So these are multiple people that we can talk about that are being silenced. Why? They're being labeled as dangerous. Okay, who are they dangerous to? We can obviously see that all of these people speak out in a very specific way. They speak out against the left, they speak out against liberal ideology, and for some reason they're the ones that are being shut down. Now, granted, Louis Farrakhan is no way, shape, or form associated with the right. He is a strictly anti-Semitic Muslim Brotherhood, and this is what he promotes. However, the left is always going to try to seem like they're going to be the good guys, so they don't want to totally look like they're playing favorites, so they're going to point out and kind of shut him down. But we'll be interested to see how long he actually stays shut down. Why? Why again? Well, we said that the left says that they're dangerous. Is that necessarily true? No. The main reason that any reasonable conservative is going to have their conversation abilities being censored or limited or shut down at this point is because the left is battling against the ideology of truth. They can't stand up against any sort of factual evidence. An X and Y chromosome determines your gender and your sex. I don't care who you are. Sorry to bust your bubble. But Muslims, not all of them are bad. Most of them that are coming to this country, however, are not coming with the best of intentions, just like President Trump said with the Mexicans that are coming across the border. Now, he didn't mean all Mexicans. He meant South Americans and Latino Americans, Central Americans. But what is coming to us is not the best the world has to offer. There are people that are fleeing from hardships, yes, but they're hardships of their own country, meaning it's from their own making. So the wild card is totally Trump right now, and he's really the main reason that everybody is attacking the left and trying to censor the left, because he's an anti-establishment businessman who wants to see the middle and upper classes grow in our country. We have the largest middle class of any country in the world. And that happened in a very short time. We are not a very old country as it stands. So the fact that we have the largest middle class, we had the highest amount of GDP growth from the 50s into the early 70s over any country until we started buying into, or China started buying into our bond measures. And then everything kind of started taking over from there. Now, when you think about Trump being kind of the gladiator towards the middle-class American, what would be the opposition? The opposition is going to be your average left who wants big government. But it's also going to come from the rhinos, those who we call the Republican in name only, that act like liberals, that act like Democrats, even though they call themselves Republicans. And what they're actually trying to do is expand their initiatives, their industries, oil and gas. You know how the left always wants to talk about oil and gas being associated with the right and the conservative measures, and that's very true. It definitely happens. However, let's not forget that the left and even Hillary Clinton receives a lot of money from people like the Koch brothers and Price Pipelines and North Houston Poland Line. Let's not forget any of that. But the only problem to the left is that their social justice and identity politics that they're putting out is causing the censorship. And we've already stated why the censorship is, and that's because they can't face what the right is trying to put out. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Department of Energy file EH-0481. And as you can see right here, this is the human radiation experiment. And I'm just pointing this out as a basis to explain to you that there is a reason the government and big tech does not want you to go ahead and listen to what the right is telling you, is because, as you can see in this government issued document, you can look it up, DOE/EH-0491. And that is the Human Radiation Experiment document from the Department of Energy. And you can look this up. Now, the government would not want me to explain to you that over 40,000 people have been radiated just in the sake of knowing what happens to the human body under radiation. They've done everything from air, blood, liquid. I mean, they've radiated people to death. You can go ahead and get rid of that. Thank you, Miss Joe. So there is a reason that the government and the left and major organizations try to shut down speeches, because a lot of times it's done in the manner of exposing things that people don't want you to see. You know, just like when you turn on the light, the cockroaches run and hide. Well, in this position, the cockroaches are holding the light switch, and that is our problem right now. Here's another thing that is kind of being shut down and ignored right now. Let's go to our second one, and this is going to be a 2009 Senate hearing specifically about the effects. It's going to be right there. Thank you, Miss Jill. And it's a 2009 Senate hearing, and if you could scroll down and just kind of show a couple pages of this, what this actually was the Department of Health, the National Institute of Health, and the National Library of Medicine, and several independent organizations got together and presented information to the Senate, specifically about electromagnetic frequency radiation on the human body. Now, this was done in 2009. This is far before 2000, and I believe it was 12 when the big 4G came out. But at any rate, I could be wrong on that number. This came out before 4G, and these effects we were looking at back then. And what we're seeing happening now is an increase in the frequency of that electromagnetic frequency radiation on the human body. So all of these effects are getting more, but nobody wants to talk about the health benefits of the 5G. Yes, what we see now in the mainstream media, you can go ahead and get rid of that. Thank you very much. What we see in the mainstream media right now is everybody is focusing on the surveillance issues, and yes, that's there, and that's definitely a concern for all of us, but there's a big way to stay away from that, and let's don't get on social media. However, for those of us who do, the biggest thing that we face is a detriment to our health on a cellular level. We can keep going, folks. We can look at all these things that are being ignored. Trump has the lowest unemployment rate. The lowest. Now, you add in the fact that the left is pushing for open borders and increased immigration. What would that do to the percentage rate? This is a specific attack, in my opinion, to continue on with the Obama administration. This is a specific attack on the right to not be able to hold true evidence, because when you have the percentage rate as it is now of our unemployment, and you increase that, and you see the unemployment rate drop or rise, either way, if it is not done from American citizens, then what you have is this falsification of information. So let's go ahead and move on to the very last point in all this, and it's the PC stopping conversation. Like I pointed out just earlier, when you have the Department of Energy's human radiation experiment not wanting to be talked about, when you have the 2009 EMF radiation Senate hearing on 3 and 4G radiation on the body, when you have immigration happening in this country, what is truly being shown to all of us? That is that the truth, the things that are known, that are evident, that are proven, they are being silenced. And the only reason you would silence the truth is if you are trying to promote a lie. Thank you very much, folks, and come and follow me at Twitter at news_neglected. You can follow me on my YouTube channel that this is posted on. You can find me on Telegram at neglected news. You can find me on Facebook at Aaron Jenkins with Neglected News. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll get back to you later on.